बड़ी शुक्रिया
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allah Rabbul Alameen states in the Holy Quran, Inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran wa nadhira litu'minu billahi wa rasulihi wa tu'azziruhu wa tuwaqqiruhu wa tusabbihuhu bukratan wa asila. And O beloved Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we have sent you as the one who gives glad tidings and the one who gives the basharat, the good news of Jannah for the believers, and the one who gives the warning of the wrath and anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his punishment. لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, so that the believers would believe in Allah Rabbul Alameen and his messenger. وَتُعَزِّرُوهُ, and so that the believers would show utmost respect to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَتُوَقِّرُوهُ, and so that the believers would show utmost honor and respect to the beloved Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَتُسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا, and so that the believers would do tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala morning and night. Allah Rabbul Alameen says in the Holy Quran, وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَكِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. Honor belongs to Allah Rabbul Alameen. Inna al-izzata lillahi jami'a. And honor belongs to his beloved Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ. After Allah Rabbul Alameen, all of the honor belongs to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, honor and respect belongs to the believers, so long as they preserve and uphold the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah Rabbul Alameen says in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawti al-nabi. O believers, do not raise your voice above the voice of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La taj'alu du'a ar-rasul baynakum ka du'a ba'dikum ba'da. Do not consider the calling of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam just the way you call each other. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la taqulu ra'ina wa qulu unzurna wasma'u. Do not use any words which would have any remote disrespect of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or which can be interpreted or misinterpreted or manipulated to show any form of disrespect to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so on and so forth. The Holy Quran is filled with the praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Holy Quran. Allahu Akbar. Ya Rasulullah. And the Holy Quran is filled with ayats which condemn the enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We show the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Innal ladhina yu'dhuna Allah wa rasulahu, those who cause harm and grievance to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those who afflict hardship and difficulty and seek to cause harm. Who can harm Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who can cause any harm to him? Allah has protected him. Wallahu ya'simuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from all of mankind, O beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inna kafaynaka al-mustahzi'in. We will answer these people who mock you on your behalf. Leave them to us. Wasbir ala ma yaquluna wahjurhum hajran jamila. Leave these people who utter disrespect to you. Leave them to us. We will deal with them. وَذَرْنِي وَالْمُكَذِّبِينَ أُولِي النَّعْمَةِ وَمَهِّلْهُمْ قَلِيلًا إِنَّ لَدَيْنَا أَنْكَالًا وَجَحِيمًا وَطَعَامًا ذَا غُصَّةٍ وَعَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. Allah Rabbul Alameen says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, those who seek to cause harm to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. The wrath and curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon them in this world and in the hereafter. وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ عَذَابًا مُهِينًا. And theirs is the most degrading azab, the most fearsome azab, the most fearsome punishment is for those who seek to harm Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I can go on and quote you many ayahs of the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran is in praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or the Holy Quran condemns those who oppose Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The slightest disrespect to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not tolerated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me say, not tolerated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Noon wal qalami wa ma yasrun. Ma anta bi ni'mati rabbika bimajnun. Wa innaka la ala khuluqin azim. Wa innaka la ajrun ghayru mamnun. And so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts Surah Noon wal Qalam, and he says there are 10 defects and faults with the one who called Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam insane. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath is apparent in these ayats of the Holy Quran. And our iman, the very foundation of our iman is Hubbi Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not a pillar of Islam. It is the foundation of Islam. It's the very essence of Islam. If you do not love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you cannot call yourself a believer. Who says? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. La yu'minu ahadukum hatta akuna ahabba ilayhi min walidihi wa waladihi wan nasi ajma'in. No one amongst you can call himself a believer until he loves me more than he loves his father, until he loves me more than he loves his children, until he loves me more than he loves the entire mankind. The love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the very root of Iman, is the essence of Iman, is the very soul and spirit of our Iman. And the non-believers know this, and they know this from day one, that how to hurt the mu'mineen is by mocking their messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it has never been tolerated. It has never been tolerated throughout centuries of history. And in recent times, Denmark started this a few years ago, and then the focus has moved to France. In 2015, Charlie Hebdo, you and I should know this, Charlie Hebdo published cartoons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mocking the most beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the best of creation. There were demonstrations, there were people who went and killed the staff at Charlie Hebdo, and we condemned those actions. Why? Because in these lands we cannot implement Sharia. In these lands, these are not Islamic lands where we can take the law into our hands. We have no right to do so. We are peace-loving and peaceful citizens of and residents of these lands. We abide by the rules and the laws, and we respect the rules and the rules of this and the laws of the land. All of the Western lands, vast majority of Muslims adhere to this very strictly. They are very law-abiding, they are very respectful, and they are very peace-loving and peaceful people. And so Charlie Hebdo republished the same cartoons in 2015, and that led to demonstrations. And on the 1st of September, what I was saying a few moments ago, this incident didn't happen on the 21st of October. It didn't start on the 21st of October. It didn't start last Wednesday. This started on the 1st of September 2020. Now we are more than a month and a half past that incident. And there was widespread silence in the Western lands. There was widespread silence within the Muslim community, widespread silence within our religious leaders, widespread silence among our shuyukh, our ulama, our community leaders, our politicians, and those who we elect and those who we think are our representatives in the House of Parliament and in various parliaments across Europe. Silence, there was complete and utter silence. And I asked why? Wasn't there disrespect of Rasulullah sallallahu? Did that not take place on the 1st of September? Do you not watch and listen to the news? Most people knew this. Because of coronavirus, most people states, and I think in this day and age, there is no excuse for it. We have a democratic right. We have a voice in this country. Every single one of us, not just me standing here on the mic, every single one of us has a platform of social media. You probably have more than I do. WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, lots of ways in which you and I can show our anger, our resentment, our unhappiness that our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been mocked, his cartoons have been made. We condemn this in the strongest of manners, and we are deeply offended and upset. That's all you had to say. That's all we had to say. And we had to convey that message, but it wasn't conveyed. So what happens is, if you remain silent, then you give license, you give endorsement for the perpetrators to continue. And a couple of very unfortunate incidents took place in which there was violence and harm. 2 people were injured, and eventually a teacher was killed. And again, that incident has led to more, has given license to the French authorities to clamp down upon the Muslims in France who are already oppressed. And we condemn that action as well. Let it not be any ambiguity there. We cannot take the law into our hands. We have a voice, we have our pens, we have our phones, we have a means by which we should communicate our resentment, our anger, our unhappiness. And we should communicate that to the people who represent us. And we in this day and age, we can start trends, we can immobilize our community, and in a peaceful manner, we can express our emotions and our feelings. But it wasn't done. 2 very unfortunate incidents took place. But this is where this blasphemy took a further turn, an unprecedented turn, unprecedented. Never in the history of mankind, I think, has any government or any state taken this action, that the offensive cartoons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of creation and the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were projected onto government buildings in France. And this, first of all, they were endorsing and covering what Charlie Hebdo was doing, and they were saying this is freedom of expression and we cannot compromise on our principles. This is one of the pillars of our democracy, and so on and so forth. That's one thing, but it's another for the government of France, for the government, for the entire establishment to project these images onto their buildings. And that should never be tolerated. That is, let me say, that is state terrorism. That is not freedom of expression. That is incitement. That is intimidation. That is oppression. You are oppressing those who have already been oppressed. The 7% of Muslim population of France is already oppressed. They live in ghettos. They live in the outskirts. They do not get equal opportunities. And yet this was another further step to oppress them more. So the Muslim Ummah, thankfully, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that finally the Muslim Ummah has woken up. And finally there are calls from the Middle Eastern countries who have now taken the French goods and products off their shelves. And finally the heads of state in Muslim countries are speaking out. But we, brothers and sisters, and those who are listening, we should speak out at every opportunity in a peaceful manner to say that, look, this is not freedom of expression. This is you are targeting and tarnishing the very fundamental of our deen, our religion. And when you target Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are not targeting one individual, you are targeting an entire ummah, because our honor is with the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Remember that, brothers. Our honor is with the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If his name is preserved, his honor is preserved, his dignity is preserved, his sanctity is preserved, then our honor is preserved as an ummah. But if his honor is tarnished, and if he is ridiculed, and if he is mocked in any way, shape, or form, then the honor of the entire ummah collapses down. And the poet of the East, our great thinker of Islam, Allama Iqbal rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, said this 100 years ago. He said, Dar dile Muslim, and look at the wisdom of his poetry. Dar dile Muslim maqam-e Mustafa. He said the station of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the heart of every single believer. You cannot take the love out of the hearts of the believers, because this has been instilled by Allah Rabbul Alameen. Allah has placed the love of his most beloved in the hearts of the believers. Dar dile Muslim maqam-e Mustafas, aab ruhe maze naam-e Mustafas. Our honor is with the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we condemn this action by the state of France in the strongest of manners, in the strongest peaceful manners, and we say we will not tolerate this, and we will continue speaking, and we will continue to use our voice, and we will continue to use our electronic media and our every single platform that we have available to preserve and uphold and protect the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you cannot get away with this. 2 days ago, I think yesterday, the French president said, we will never stop. Well, we will never stop as well. The whole ummah will stand up, because you can oppress us, you can take our wealth, you can take everything from us. You can mock me, you can mock my family. probably won't say anything. We are weak. We are 1.9 billion, but we are weak. We are divided. But you mock our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You aim to ridicule and harm his honor and his name, and every single person from the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from one corner of Australia to the other corner of America, from the North Pole to the South Pole, every single believer, whether they are weak or whether they are poor, whether they are oppressed, they will speak up, because this is part of our DNA. We love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we will love him. Inshallah, our generations will love him, and we are ready to give up everything. We are not interested in the privileges of that the West has to offer. We will not gain intercession. We will not be asking for intercession from these politicians, from these leaders, from these Western powers. We will ask for intercession from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And on the day of judgment, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam turns his face away from us and he says, when I was mocked, why were you silent? How will you answer? So I say again, in a very peaceful way, in a very democratic way, use your voice, contact your MPs, write to your MPs, ask your Imam, say, why don't you speak on this issue? Write on your social media, pass the message on to, not just now, and do not let this particular trend die down. This is what happens. Our emotions rise and then they go down again. And then the same thing happens in a few years. We will not tolerate this. And what we should be doing is we should be seeking our politicians. We should be asking them to say, look, you are not just representatives of your constituency. You are not just representatives. You are a Muslim MP. You represent the Muslims of this country. And we ask you to present our voice in the House of Parliament and to pass a law that no religious great leaders and no Anbiya alayhimus salam in particular are mocked and ridiculed in this way. And we should do everything within a peaceful manner to present and to project our voices and our emotions. And we should take this opportunity to demonstrate our love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and tell people why he is so dear to us and why we love him so much. Express your love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Celebrate his milad and give sweets and give chocolates and give gifts to all of your neighbors. And when they ask you why, say it's because of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's birth. This is the month of his birth when we love him more than we love anyone. So spread that message so that people would know how much you love him and transfer that love to your next generation. Because the greatest wealth we have is the wealth of Iman. And if we are able to pass that wealth onto our next generation, then we will be successful. But if we leave this world without passing that wealth onto our next generation, then we have left empty-handed. And that wealth cannot be attained until and unless you love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than you love everything and anything in this entire world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst true followers and true devotees and true lovers of Rasulullah sallallahu